guys, this is Doctrzombie showing off the graphics of Diablo 3 with my new graphics card and giving you the top 10 things you need to know to prepare for the Diablo 3 launch date. So here we go. Coming in at number 10, we have the fact that the town portal is no longer a scroll or a book that resides in your inventory, but now is a skill that you acquire after achieving completion of a certain quest in the main quest line. The town portal can be used infinitely and has no cost, therefore it is very convenient to warp back to town whenever your inventory is full. It has a small charge-up time, but then takes you directly back to town. At number 9, you need to know that identifying rares is no longer done by scroll or deckard cane, and is something everyone can do naturally just by right-clicking on the item. Now in the game, blue magic items do not need to be identified, so far only yellow rares in the beta. Once identified, they can be equipped just like any other item. In Diablo 2, when you gained a hireling, they maintain the same skill throughout the game unless you chose a new one. In Diablo 3, you level up your hireling at certain levels, giving them skills that benefit your playstyle. You can also equip them with items. They take an amulet, 2 rings, and a weapon or shield. Or at least the Templar does. The other hirelings were not available during the beta.
I will use this.
At number 7, we have dungeons, and as you might recall in Diablo 2, random dungeons were basically the name of the game. And this has been improved upon in Diablo 3, where each dungeon level can have certain areas randomized based on where their location is. Provides a new dungeon experience every different time. In addition to this, certain events might show up in dungeons that didn't show up in other playthroughs. You're virtually guaranteed a different experience each time you play Diablo 3. Elite mobs are back, just like Diablo 2. They glow a certain color, and they have special abilities that make them hard to kill.
Not enough hatred.
Much like Diablo 2, the elite mobs will drop a little extra loot. Normally upon the last one getting killed will the magic item drop. You'll also notice red orbs floating around from your deceased enemies. Walking into one of these will heal you and your party. I don't believe it works on other players, but it definitely works on your NPCs and spawned hirelings, like the Witch Doctor's dogs. The map and minimap have received a facelift in Diablo 3 as well. You'll notice that it can be scrolled by clicking and pulling with your mouse, as well as nearby objectives appearing on the map. This works as well for your minimap, which is right above your objective list. Shrines are back, but this time when clicking, they'll give you a buff. You can see how long it'll last, and what it does. There are literally tons of different things that can happen to you in dungeons. Sometimes a normal-looking chest is part of a trap. Sometimes it's just a chest. But other times, clicking the chest will spring a trap. Mobs, usually. Basically, if it looks like a trap, it smells like a trap, it's a trap. But then again, you're really here for the experience anyway. So why not open every chest you see? You're bound to get a few extras.
That was a worthy foe.
Sometimes even walking down the hall can be dangerous, and certain walls will just burst into enemies. Not every encounter is random though, and certain ones are scripted enough that you'll see them over and over as you play through the game.
We shall put you down, Hellspawn.
In this event, King Leoric is activating pillars which are going to continually spawn skeletons. After the first 1 or 2 times of getting really pounded, you'll realize the best thing to do is just take them out as quickly as possible. And then deal with the riffraff. Plus you'll get a little extra bonus. A major new portion of Diablo 3 involves the crafting abilities of your allies. You level up your allies using gold, and then you can salvage magic items to produce simple essence, and other things with higher levels. Occasionally you'll get a rare, like I did here, a fallen tooth. The fallen tooth isn't useful to me yet, but eventually I'll require better essences, better materials to make items here in the crafting bench. The items that your ally can craft, your artisan, can craft are based on their level, which requires gold to train. but most of these items are actually worthwhile. You'll notice here, if I go to the armor and select boots, for a required level 5 item, they produce a 16 armor, which is actually almost as good as the armor I've got now that I found dropped in the wild. Crafting it costs money and materials, but it gives 2 random magic properties. This is much more effective than the gambling system in Diablo 2, and it's a good way to use up some of your unwanted magic items, rather than selling them for gold. I'll discuss later how much magic items are worth in gold, and why you might want to be picking up every pile you see. Your stash in New Tristram is shared between your other characters, as long as they're not in hardcore, meaning that anything I put in one is going to show up in the other. This is a great way to transfer items between different characters, so if you find something that you don't like, or that can only be used by a certain class that you're not, you don't necessarily have to sell it. Here I'm keeping this ceremonial knife for my witch doctor. All loot in the game is instanced, meaning that other characters you're playing with can't see what drops for you. Everything that drops is yours, so you might as well pick it all up, especially piles of gold. As I discuss later, you're going to need a lot of it. More importantly, magic items are yours, so if you find one that you don't want, you can either break it down for materials, or maybe trade it on the auction house or in the game with someone else. At number 3, we have the cost of items as compared to the value of gold. Now, in Diablo 2, gold was not very important, but you'll notice here from my basic items selling at 5 and magic items selling at somewhere around the 20s and 30s, gold is much more rare in Diablo 3 than it was in the original, at least from items. Item costs are highly reduced. And looking here at the magic items for sale, they go in the thousands. Now with the gold auction house and the real money auction house, you can acquire items that are specific to your needs that way instead of trading through vendors if that suits your needs. But the cost of selling items is greatly reduced, meaning that gold is much more valuable than it was in Diablo 2 and might actually be a viable part of your economy. Because gold is so much more valuable, the gold that is dropped by villains can actually be worth more than if they had dropped a blue item. For instance, this skeleton dropped a pile of 55 gold, which is the same as dropping 1 or 2 blue items, as far as money's concerned. In addition to that, you're going to be crafting your blue items at the crafting bench for materials to craft your own blue items, so you probably won't be selling a lot of your magic items so much as breaking them down for important goods. Due to the costs associated with training your crafting allies, you're going to want to pick up every pile of gold you can find. These costs add up quickly in order to level them up, and if you don't pick up the gold from the floor like you may have ignored in Diablo 2, you're going to find yourself hurting for money. Another thing you'll probably be spending your money on is expanding your stash. It costs 10,000 gold to add 2 new slots, which allows you to be spending quite a bit of money. Coming in at number 2, we have the left and right mouse button skills and how they interact with your energy ratio. Typically, your left mouse button is going to build energy, and your right mouse button is going to drain it, although this doesn't apply for all characters. For example, the wizard will regain mana constantly. In the instance here, I'm playing the demon hunter, and the left mouse button hungering arrow will gain, and the right mouse button will spend hatred. This brings me to the number 1 thing that you need to know before getting into Diablo 3, especially as it relates to Diablo 2, and that involves skill switching. Notice here that I've only got 6 different items as far as active skills, and 3 passive skills. Each one of these contains a bunch of different types of skills that you add to yourself as you level automatically. There's no choosing talent trees or placing points here. All you can do is you decide which of the skills you want to use, which will be specific to your build. Most of the skills are not available in the beta, so I wasn't able to review a lot of them, and even if I hadn't, I could talk about this all day. For example, here's Entangling Shot. It imbues an arrow with shadow energy, slowing up to 2 enemies. If you add the first rune that you're allowed to get, you can hit up to 4 enemies. Other runes will do different things, and I'm not going to cover them all. But it's important to note that skill switching can be done instantly. However, skill switching can be done instantly. However, when you do it, and click accept, there's a cooldown until you can use that skill again. This can't be done while in battle, otherwise you're going to be left with your pants down. There you have it, the top 10 things you need to know about Diablo 3. Especially when transitioning from Diablo 2, these things could save you a lot of time and energy when getting into the game. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Once again, this is Doctrzombie, signing off.
Will not live. Only a little longer. I must wait to use that ability.